Hi, everyone. We're just waiting for a couple of our panelists to hop on. Hey, Cory, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good.
Hi, good.
How are you all?
I'm good.
Pretty good. Okay.
Cory, where do you live?
I'm in Long Island, New York,
Oh, nice. I'm in
about an hour
Atlanta.
from Manhattan. Okay. All right.
Oh.
Very nice.
Where are you, Michelle?
I'm actually in Chicago.
Oh,
Oh,
you guys
very
are
nice.
closer.
I've never been to Chicago or Atlanta.
Oh,
So,
gosh. Yeah, all good cities, I think.
I've been to Chicago and New York City. So,
very nice.
if that counts.
It's pretty close.
Yeah.
All right, we can go ahead and get started. So,
Sure.
welcome to the longevity panel called Turning Back the Clock, the science-backed tips to lower your inner age with InsideTracker. My name is Michelle Darian, and I'm a nutrition scientist and content creator, and also a registered dietitian at InsideTracker, and I'm the moderator for today's talk. Today, we're discussing how our top longevity experts turn back the clock and lower their inner age with InsideTracker. I'm joined by our two fabulous panelists. We have health coach Cory Rodriguez, and we have biohacker, podcast host, and actress Melanie Avalon. So Cory Rodriguez is a health coach with over 10 years of experience as an expert in the health and wellness field. He's worked one-on-one with hundreds of people to help them transform their lives. He now also shares his knowledge freely on Instagram and TikTok as Cory L. Rodriguez, providing education, tips, and tools to all so they can learn to make healthier choices for themselves every day. We're also joined by Melanie Avalon. Melanie Avalon is a Screen Actors Guild and American Federation of Television and Radio Artists actress, author of What, When, Wine, Lose Weight and Feel Great with Paleo-Style Meals, Intermittent Fasting, and Wine. Melanie also hosts two top iTunes podcasts, the Melanie Avalon Biohacking Podcast and the Intermittent Fasting Podcast with New York Times bestselling co-host Jen Stevens. Melanie is also certified as a wine specialist, a holistic nutritionist, and as a member of Mensa International. Melanie developed the food app Food Sense Guide to help those with food sensitivities, in addition to running 3 rapidly growing Facebook groups. So it looks like you guys are both very busy. But thank you so much for both being here today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Sure.
thank you.
Excited to chat. So I thought I would just start off by kind of getting to know you both a bit more. So my first question for you both is, what sparked your passion for the field of health and longevity?
Want to go first, Melanie?
I don't care. You can go.
Okay. So for me, I started in fitness. I was lucky enough to get into it super early. I was going to the gym after high school, after class, like basically let out when everyone else was hanging out with their friends. I was lucky enough to get into fitness early enough that I started with that. But what happened is I noticed over the years, about 3 or 4 years in, that there was a large gap from almost like acute-based illness and medicine from fitness. There was almost like no health field per se. It was like really lacking. It was either like you're in shape or you're sick for some reason. And I noticed there was a giant like gap, and I started to notice that aesthetics did not necessarily mean that you were healthy. You could look good and still have, a certain chronic illness, anything like that. So that's where I kind of started to shift over. Someone I knew became very, very sick, and she was in great shape. She was eating what I thought was good at the time, doing cardio, and she got very sick. So I definitely had to change my way of thinking at that point. That was about 10 years ago now. And it's certainly different than it used to be as far as how my thoughts are on health and fitness.
I love it. Okay. Mine, I sort of similar as far as realizing the dichotomy between like health and fitness and how different those are. And mine actually started because I was always trying to lose weight in college, and I was trying all these different crazy diets, like really crazy things, and nothing was ever really working. And then I found the low carb world. I feel like so many people started with like Atkins and the low carb world, but not only did that actually help me lose weight, but I started experiencing all of these health benefits that I didn't really realize. And I was like, oh, food, like what you eat does so much more than weight loss, like energy and skin and inflammation and so many things. So I became really obsessed with the science of diet. And then Cory was talking about how a lot of people have like chronic health issues. I did have my own chronic health issues, digestive challenges, fatigue, anemia, and that just started a relentless search for answers. And I'm a sharer and a teller. And so whenever I find things that really, really work, I have to tell everybody. So podcasting worked well for that. So yeah, here we are.
No, that's awesome. I think it's really interesting that you both kind of had experiences getting into health with starting kind of with something that's kind of like seeing something being unhealthy and then kind of taking that more proactive approach kind of in the future. So I think that's really cool. And I see the similarities there, which I think is awesome. So what would you say would be one major challenge that you faced in trying to improve your own health?
I think for me, I could say that I tend to keep on going even when I probably should rest. And that's not even so much in a workout sense, but in a life sense. Always want to do more. You want to be proactive. You want to have ambitions and goals. And I tend to like push, and then I get smacked in the face at some point when I'm like, okay, I should probably like take a day off or rest for an afternoon or something. I tend to I preach all, this stuff as far as trying to consolidate your time and not going over the edge, but it sometimes is hard, even for me, to slow down when needed. So that's definitely something I have to constantly tell myself. So I don't consider, I don't go off the rails of just doing crazy endless amounts of work and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's interesting. Did any of your InsideTracker biomarkers tell you that you were kind of doing too
You know
much?
what? Luckily, they didn't. And I almost wonder if hopefully being a healthy guy overall, that kind of like was enough armor, so to speak, to basically make sure that nothing happened. Because I do think the healthier you are, the more your body can handle. So I wonder if I wasn't that healthy, if the extra added work and stress and stuff like that would have maybe resulted in more problems, possibly.
Yeah, definitely. Having that strong foundation, I think, is super important for being able to take on more. Definitely. How about you, Melanie?
Well, very similar answer as far as overdoing everything and being really crazy. That actually, your answer, Cory, inspired me to sort of change mine.
Sure.
So I have had like very intense physical things, so digestive issues, and then I mentioned the anemia already, which all of that does show up on InsideTracker. But I think the worst part for me with all of it is my like secondary anxiety and rumination about it. Like I just sort of obsess, and it'd be really nice to just experience health challenges and like not stress about it on top of that. So I think that's probably my biggest thing. And then like just trying to find clarity with all of it, which your second question about, how does InsideTracker, come into play with that? And well, first of all, with the anemia, it definitely, it has been a game changer. And I've been like very vocal about this, but because my anemia got so bad to the point that I was like hospitalized for it. And this is like after eating, I eat like a very high iron diet. So it's very weird. But with InsideTracker, I finally could put all of my labs for the iron panels and like ferritin, which a lot of conventional doctors don't test for. And the charts that InsideTracker makes is incredible. So I could finally see like what was happening with my iron panel. I could see trends, and I love that it'll tell you like, oh, like even with the day-to-day, it can be hard to tell where you're actually headed. So when you have all that data in one place and the graphs and then the interpretations where it says, like, it'll literally say like, if you stay on this route, then by this day, your ferritin might be this level. So it's really helpful for addressing the stress and anxiety with all of that.
I'm so happy to hear that it was a useful tool, especially for something that that has been kind of an issue for you. So it's great that it's been a good tool. So jumping into some of the aging questions. So let's see. So after getting back your InsideTracker inner age, were you surprised by what you found?
A little bit, and maybe not so much. So vitamin D and magnesium have always been kind of an issue with me. Vitamin D, I think, is a strong biomarker for aging. If that's low for a long time, I definitely see how that's going to lead to problems. I've always had a problem maintaining it at a good, decent level. And it came back even lower on InsideTracker, even after taking a supplement and using magnesium. But what was interesting was my magnesium was also low, and also I wonder if the low magnesium was causing low vitamin D. And if I didn't test, I would have never known. It's hard to give yourself an amount to take in a supplement form when trying to fix something if you don't know the exact amount. So it was definitely helpful to see where magnesium and vitamin D were, and now I'm trying to work on it. So we'll see if it helps in the months upcoming.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm curious to see if that's kind of the trick to help you to raise your vitamin D level.
Yeah.
So how specifically does vitamin D relate to longevity?
It's more so a hormone than it is a vitamin. It's more important, in my opinion, than even other vitamins that you still need. A, C, B. It does such a good job in maintaining your hormones on an everyday basis that if you're not getting enough vitamin D, either from the sun or a supplement, it's definitely going to have a negative impact long term on your immune system. And overall, your immune system, when that's weak, your longevity is also going to be, a repercussion as well.
Awesome. That's helpful. And so, Melanie, what biomarkers do you find particularly important to focus on for longevity?
Yeah, well, just talking about the vitamin D some more. It's funny. I actually have the opposite experience of Cory because I, especially with COVID and seeing all the studies on vitamin D and the connections it was insane. And I was like, wow, this vitamin D is I need to ramp up the vitamin D. So I started supplementing and I started doing I know it's controversial, but doing 1 or 2 minute sessions in a UVB tanning booth. And then I got my InsideTracker results and I was way high on the vitamin D. So I overshot. But then since then I brought it back down. But I think vitamin D is, really, really huge for immunity or longevity. You're asking what's our favorite or?
Yeah,
or
favorites. Yeah, favorite's perfect. I think vitamin D is such a hot one right now. So that's.
Yeah, no, I think it totally is. I also really love CRP for inflammation. And I think I personally really love that one because I always feel perpetually, and it's probably more in my head that I'm inflamed. But my CRP always comes back really good. I'm okay, we're doing something right. But yeah, I love those too for sure.
Yeah, it's really nice to have those confirmation biomarkers too. So just kind of confirmation that something you're doing is going right. So no, that's definitely helpful. Let's see. So Melanie touched on this a little bit. So you said you were working on kind of that iron panel now. What are you specifically doing to help to improve your iron levels?
Yeah, so I'm super happy because for the first time in forever, my ferritin is actually going up rather than down. Awesome. So one of the InsideTracker recommendations that made me really happy was I didn't realize scallops are actually really high in iron. And I'm a big seafood lover, so I've been ramping up the scallops like crazy. And then I've also been taking, and I think this is the real big game changer for me, I've been taking desiccated grass-fed spleen, not liver, spleen, because spleen actually has 5 times more.
It has more,
I don't know. Yeah, it's got a lot more iron than liver even. So I've been doing that. I've been doing 1 or 2 of those every night, and the ferritin is going. And I've actually been supplementing chlorophyll because I heard that, or a doctor told me that actually can help with iron as well. So
very interesting. How about you, Cory?
So I'm pretty much trying to work on, besides the magnesium and the vitamin D, also my sex hormone binding globulin was also off course. My testosterone was good, but I wonder if I don't get that under control because it essentially allows the tissues to utilize testosterone. So if I don't get my sex hormone binding globulin in play, I wonder if that'll impact my testosterone. So I'm trying some different herbs. It's kind of hard to figure that one out. It's been low for a long time, even with testosterone levels good. So it's a little bit kind of a challenge to figure out what might work. But I'm trying to incorporate, especially after not really moving too much during COVID, more high intensity activity, more sprinting, more sports, as well as some herbs to see if that makes a difference, like ashwagandha and maca, and hopefully I see that number shift over the next few months.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like you're being very proactive and trying to.
I'm trying, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Let's see. Have you had any InsideTracker recommendations that were particularly surprising or noteworthy?
I shouldn't say surprising, but I think the one that I think should be on almost everyone's list is eating a diverse amount of plants. Because I find a lot of people eat the same foods every day, like
Right.
the same meals, or most of their meals are like the same. And the same foods over time, besides the fact that you increase your risk for a food sensitivity, you're not going to get all that you can get from all different types of foods. And I mean, this is more than just plants, but in general, I know people stick to like a vegetable and eat that one vegetable and they don't move from that one meal. You get such a diverse amount of nutrients from all different foods that your gut and your microbiota really get fueled so well with all these different foods. So that one for me is one that I like to see, and I try to stick to it whenever I see it. So I think that one actually would help me and mostly everyone else for the most part.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I know that eating a diet that's very diverse is really helpful for those gut microbes to have
Oh yeah.
to be enriched and diverse. So yeah, that's a great recommendation, I think. What are your thoughts, Melanie?
Well, first of all, I'm jealous again because with the digestive issues, I tend to do a low FODMAP
Mm-hmm.
diet, so which kind of limits my veggies, and I am so jealous. Like in my head, my like ideal version of myself, I'm just like eating all the plants all the time and just like having wonderful processing and this like beautiful gut microbiome. Um, so, but I try to just be like kind to myself and work
Yeah.
where I can with what I'm eating. Um, but yeah, that's how I feel about that.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm lucky enough that I can eat a lot of those fibrous foods and I don't get any problems. But I
Oh,
do know
totally.
it's not always like that for sure.
Yeah, my co-host on the intermittent fasting podcast, we're polar opposites, and her gut is like
Really.
steel, and I'm always just like,
Oh
I'm
man,
jealous.
yeah, it definitely makes it harder to pick out those foods. You got to be like more conscious of it, and I totally get it.
Yeah, so I try to use like much as I can within like low FODMAP works really
Yeah.
well for me. So that works like pretty much any fruits and vegetables on that list work well for
Okay.
me.
Awesome. How long did it take you to kind of experiment with foods that worked for you and kind of didn't? Like, what was that process like for you?
I mean, it's really, I mean, it's been for the past decade, and I am again with like Cory was talking about variety. I tend to go really extreme and try like so I was doing like carnivore before like probably like 10 years ago
Mhm.
before people were doing it. So I kind of I don't do carnivore now, but I'll do experiments where I do basically just like a few certain types of food and see how that like how I react to that. And yeah, so it's been years, and I tend to try like specific stuff and then stick with it. And there goes the juice.
Time's up. That's awesome. So can you both tell me a little bit about your personal approach to longevity? Are there specific things like nutrition that you incorporate, or more so lifestyle habits, or what approach do you typically take to longevity?
So for me, I think the two things that I try to go above and beyond with is fasting. I fast a lot now. That works just very well with my body, but I pretty much fast from intermittent fast or something to that extent. Everyone calls it something like a little different, but I pretty much fast almost every day, about 6 days a week probably. So I'm eating in between a 7 hour window normally. And for me, that just happens to work very well, but it's been years of doing this. And I'm very, very big into heat and cold therapy for stints of time to put your body in those uncomfortable zones of climate change.
Well,
We're the
very.
same. That's like literally my answer.
That's
Intermittent
funny.
fasting. Fasting is amazing. So I do one meal a day. Although I know you're supposed to eat like early, but I eat really late. But I've been doing that for for probably about 10 years. And
Wow.
then I love, love, love the hot and cold stuff. So like right before this, I did cryotherapy. Cory, do you do cryo?
I don't really like cryo. I like more of the water submersion. Like I like going in water itself. I like that like stinging feeling that you get when you hop into cold water. The cryo for some reason just doesn't hit me the same way.
So do you do ice baths?
I'd rather do an ice bath. Yeah.
I've actually never done an ice bath, which
Huh. It's a
I
different
know.
feeling.
I
It hits your skin differently.
Yeah, I imagine. I mean, it looks really intense. Oh, yeah, I really want to do one. But in the meantime, yeah, cryo, and then I'm having infrared sauna at home, and I love to do that every single night. So I just echoed what he said. But also, I think just like, I mean, maybe this is an obvious answer, but when it comes to food, like real whole foods, not all of this processed stuff. So I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, definitely. What are some of those health benefits of doing the sauna and cryotherapy?
You take it away. Take it away.
There's so many. So on the sauna side of things, activates heat shock proteins in your body, and those have a lot of really beneficial effects for your immune system. The cardiovascular benefits of sauna can actually rival exercise, which is really cool. So basically, you can lie in a sauna and get a workout for your heart without actually working out. And
That's
then
productive.
I know it's really wonderful. I love like just reading in my sauna every night.
Yeah.
And the immunity, so it is possible that because the sauna basically creates an artificial fever, well, a real fever, but artificial because it's not your body reacting to a microbe or something. It's just from the sauna. There's the possibility that that can wipe out potentially viral infections that you might have been exposed to, because often your first response to pathogens is a fever. So if you're doing that every single night, it's kind of like, I mean, I'm not saying it's going to protect you completely, but it's a nice thing to have in your arsenal. And then the muscle relief from the sauna, the stress relief is just really incredible. Then on the flip side with the cold, I prefer the cold. I love the cold. I just love the cold. And it activates sirtuins, which are basically like which are like longevity genes in your body. It is good for inflammation. It's good for, I was reading a really fascinating study on cryo, and they tested it from people who had depression, and some of them were actually able to go off their antidepressants when they did it regularly.
Wow.
Yeah, so I just love the cold and the heat. So that was a lot. Cory, do you want to add to it?
No, you pretty much hit it on the head. You know, the genes so much linked to longevity are associated with putting your body in small acute phases of hot and cold, you know, as opposed to being stressed out for a long period of time. It's a stressor, but it's a stressor where your body can build from versus being broken down from.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's an awesome answer. Yeah, no, that was awesome. And I think a lot of people on here would be interested in sauna and cryo and things like
Oh, yeah.
that. So switching back to kind of the nutrition piece of it, are there any specific foods that you like to incorporate daily?
I think for me, I, you know, try to switch up meals, but normally every day, I think the foods I would normally get in is berries to some extent. I'm always eating berries. I think I've had an avocado or half an avocado every day for like the last 2 years. So I'd say avocado, berries, usually some type of fermented food. It's kind of gross, but sauerkraut out of the jar, I normally will add to certain meals, and people give me this face, but you get kind of used to it. Just getting in those pre and probiotics from all different types of food and fibers. So I'm pretty big with that. And overall, I try to, while my amount is nothing like what it used to be, I do try and keep my protein for myself due to so much, you know, weight training and stuff like that, that amount that works for me. So those protein-rich foods are, to some extent, always in my diet.
Awesome. Your gut must be very happy. You sounds like you're feeding it a lot of the right
Right
things.
now, it's pretty happy, yeah. So
Yeah.
hopefully it continues. Yeah.
I love it. The fermented foods. So when I was in LA, there was this one brand of sauerkraut that I could find at Whole Foods that was made without salt, and it was just like the most amazing sauerkraut ever. And they
Really?
don't have it here in Atlanta. So
Mhm.
I literally been calling the company and having them ship it to me, and the price I have to pay for the sauerkraut because of the shipping, I think it's embarrassing. I'm like, I don't know. I feel like I should suck it up and learn how to I mean, I know how to ferment, so I could try to make it myself, but I think the price I'm spending for the sauerkraut is insane. But yeah, staples for me, protein. I say pounds. I literally eat pounds and pounds of usually lean animal protein or fish every night. And then like Cory with the berries, I tend to eat pounds of fruit every single night. So I like to do either high carb, low fat or low carb, high fat. So my staple is always like the protein, the animal protein. And then I either do like tons of fruit or I do like tons of MCT oil or something like that. So I don't like, for me personally, I don't process carbs and fat together very well.
Yeah, I mean, for me, when if I work out that day, my carbs are always higher. On days I'm more sedentary, I have the same kind of deal where my fats are higher and carbs are lower. So it's a similar swap on and off.
Yeah. What type of for the carbs, do you like to go the like fruit route or like, well, you say like berries, or do you ever do the like starches ever?
It's mainly fruit and starchy vegetables, and grains are in there sometimes. It's normally the low processed grains and stuff like that. Those are in there here and there just because they taste so good. But normally it's the starchy vegetables and the fruit for the most part. The low glycemic fruit even more times than not.
Wait, can I ask you a question? I know I'm not the moderator, but I'm just go for it. Do you have like a dirty pleasure? Like if there was like one really
Pizza.
like food that's just like awful for you that like will always speak to your heart?
Pizza.
Pizza?
If pizza magically became healthy, I'd be the healthiest guy in the world because I could eat it every day. So.
Oh my gosh. Mine's funfetti cake.
Oh, wow.
Funfetti. Oh, the cake. Yeah. I know what you mean.
I will never not love it.
It's fun to make too, so it's kind of an experience and good.
I know. I miss it.
That's awesome. So what motivates you to prioritize longevity, and why do you think it's important more so now than before?
I think for me, I think I've heard a lot of people talk about, how at some point, we all have to die, which I know that sounds terrible, but going off of that, there's such a big difference in how you thrive during the years that you're alive. And the more time you spend on longevity and putting that work in for years to come, the more you're going to thrive, the better you're going to feel as you age, as pretty much your years go on. And I believe with health, it's an investment. You have to put in the work now so that 10 years from now you're in a good spot. It's not like the stock market where you're going to buy and sell a stock in one night. You're not going to see those benefits necessarily overnight, but with enough time, you're going to see all the benefits that you would normally have seen as you age, and you still feel great and you're vibrant. And it's way different than someone that is having health issues on tons of medication. And I think that's the big takeaway is how do you want to feel and live during the time that you are, alive.
No, that's awesome. And health is definitely like a long-term investment. So, no, that's awesome.
Yeah, similar answer. Mine's probably twofold. One is, and this is me being vulnerable, but like with acting in the entertainment industry, I've always been haunted by the idea of like growing old. So I feel like that's a really selfish answer, but just that aspect of it. And then, but more importantly, I find this so interesting because I always just assumed that everybody would want to live forever. Because I want to live forever. Like, I just want to like live life and have experiences and learn things and share and interact with people. And I really thought that was everybody's answer, but I've asked so many people that I've had on my show and just people in my audience, and a lot of people don't want to. So I'm just throwing that out there, but it ties into my answer of I just want to keep experiencing everything forever and ever. So
yeah, no, that's such a great answer because it just also shows that you've set up kind of the life that you are really excited about. So
I think most people, whether they want to admit it or not, they don't really want to get older, look older. They want to stay young. No one says it, but everyone wants the same thing. So,
right. Yeah. Oh, that's great. So how do you set up the environment around you for success?
So for me, I'm very like schedule oriented. I'm huge, like routinely oriented. If I don't write things down, if I don't have a picture perfect idea, and some people are the exact opposite. They thrive on not having a schedule. I don't have a schedule. Everything's like mishmash together. So for me, I like to have my day planned out. My wife and I, we pretty much have our meals for the entire week on the fridge, like planned out. Like everything's very like routine, and it helps me kind of find time for everything.
No, that can be
I
rough.
I'm the same with the planner, by the way. I got
Mm.
broken into this year and they took so many, like
Oh,
so much of my
wow.
stuff, but I was like, if they had taken my planner, like I would have freaked
Oh,
out.
man.
Um, but I guess in addition to that, so my physical environment, because I like podcasting and all of that, I pretty much am all working from my apartment all the time. So it's really important to me to keep my space really conducive to my mindset and my productivity. So I always, the light went off, but the red in the beginning, I like always have a Juve red light going because I just find it really helps my mood, helps
Mm.
counteract all of the blue light that we're exposed to. I have, I just started growing like hydroponic plants and they make me
That's
so
cool.
happy. They like, I can't even, like, I'm growing cucumbers and I have like a really big like unit that's almost as tall as me. It's just like changing my life. And
That's
then,
awesome.
yeah, it's amazing. And then air purifiers to keep the air really, really nice. And then adjusting again with the light, like using light to in the morning in the day having really bright exposure, and then at night everything goes red. Like my apartment, if you see it from the outside at night, it looks like the red light district or something, but that's okay. So yeah, I like to just optimize all of that.
No, that's awesome. Do you feel like your sleep has improved since you've been kind of curating your lighting?
Yes. So I am like I self-identify as an insomniac and I do everything I can do to combat that. And I can pretty confidently say, and I wear an Aura ring, which tracks my sleep. And like it shows that I like sleep well now. And that's so I do like the blackout curtains, the blue light blocking glasses, a chili pad to monitor to change the temperature of the mattress, the red lights at night, take CBD. So like when I do all the things, I actually sleep pretty well. And I think sleep is so huge for longevity. So
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That sleep is so important for longevity, and it's one of those things that I feel like is so often overlooked. And so it's awesome that you've kind of set up that environment for kind of that optimal sleep.
yeah, it's awesome.
Okay, so summer has just begun. Do you have any advice for those looking to prioritize their health for the season?
So at least in New York, I feel like it's like outside weather for like 4 months, 5 months, maybe, definitely not six. But I'd say it's pretty cold a lot of the time. And I feel like you have to really capture all the benefits of being outside when you can. Because again, if you live somewhere where it's not always hot, you're gonna lose that in the winter. So getting in nature as much as possible, getting fresh air and getting sunlight, moving more because people tend to move more often in the summertime. You know, you go for walks, you're out for the night, you're out in town, you're doing whatever. I find that people move a lot more. So literally moving more and getting sunlight and walking barefoot outside, getting fresh air, and really exposing yourself to all the elements of outside before you unfortunately might have to be more inside when it's like 10 degrees outside.
Oh my gosh, that's such a great point. I think now that it's warm in Chicago, it's like I take every advantage to be outside. So
Me
that's
too.
yeah,
Same kind of deal. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and then I would add to that, it's great because it's like we can be making the vitamin D that we're talking about naturally from our skin. But then I think not overdoing it with the sun exposure. So, and
All
then
right.
I
Yeah.
think it's so, so huge to find a non-toxic sunscreen because sunscreen, like this, especially with the recent studies they've done on the toxins and how long they stay in the bloodstream, it's really, really shocking. So I think finding a non-toxic sunscreen, especially for your face, if nothing else. And then something else I was thinking of for summer, I think like varying up your diet. So I think if people are kind of stuck in a low carb rut, or if they want to change things up, I feel like eating seasonally is really great. So
Mhm.
if you're low carb and you've been wanting to try more carbs, I think summer is like the perfect time to experiment with that.
Awesome. Any particular foods you're starting to incorporate now that it's summer
Well,
seasonally?
like I said, I sort of like exist in a very like
Yeah, you have your bubble.
small bubble.
Yeah.
So I'm still been doing pretty much what I've been doing, which is just lots of blueberries and pineapple and fish and seafood and meat, cucumbers.
So what would you say to a younger version of yourself about how to prioritize longevity from the beginning?
I think, as I said in the beginning, focusing more on whole body health and less on the size of my biceps, because that's like what you start out doing in fitness. You care so much about like aesthetics. And while that's fine, and you can certainly work on that, there's definitely that element of we should care more about your body as a whole. It's not even weight training, which obviously is going to build muscle. It does so many things from a health point of view also. So I think trying to be more well-rounded is probably what I would say to my younger self when I was starting out.
That's awesome.
I would probably say to rather than all the crazy diets and calorie counting and all of that, to eat whole foods. Like I would have just not done processed foods ever. And I would have specifically focused on getting rid of seed oils. Because I think like vegetable like vegetable, cottonseed, corn, safflower, sesame, those high refined omega-6 fats, I think are playing a huge role in a lot of the health issues that we have today. So, and they build up in our cells and they can take years to change the ratio of our cells. So I think I would have focused on a good omega-3, 6 diet of whole foods from day one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting to me too that kind of those things that you would say from day one are simple approaches too. So kind of just going back to whole foods and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that some of those more simple approaches are actually what can be so great for longevity.
And what's crazy is how misconstrued they all are. That when you're starting out, it takes you sometimes years to figure out the foundational basics, but that just shows the world of nutrition and health and how many things are going on at the same time and how hard it could be to just take, the right information from all different sources.
Yeah, definitely. So a question for you both. How do you see the field of longevity expanding in the next 10 years or even 50 years?
So I think we're going to have a lot more data to back up some of the ideas that we have now. Like as good as fasting is, there's definitely a lot of holes in terms of what we actually can fully back up with human studies and not just like animal studies. So I think over the next 50 years, even 10 years, but especially in the next 50 years, I think the science that we'll have to back up all these ideas that we have now that we assume are kind of correct because there's evidence, but maybe there can be better evidence. So I do think we will find a lot of the solid evidence to back up what I think a lot of people have been suggesting over the last few years.
Yeah, I'm really hopeful that in my dream world there's like this huge paradigm shift where the especially with like the pharmaceutical industry and everything, more of an appreciation for diet and lifestyle interventions compared to pharmaceuticals, which I think completely have their place in a lot of situations, but for chronic disease and degenerative issues it can be oftentimes a lot more effective to have dietary and lifestyle approaches. I've been prepping to interview a guy named Sergey Young who invests in longevity technology, and I'm reading his book that's coming out. And I don't know, he has me pretty convinced now that we're going to see like really radical changes in longevity and life extension in a relatively short amount of time, and like the potential for, massively expanding the average human lifespan. So I'm really curious to see how that goes with the technology surrounding all of that. I think it seems to be just a matter of like finding out, the way, and this might be a pharmaceutical or a technology intervention, but to reverse aging. So I'm really curious to see. I mean, it sounds like Star Wars or 2001 Space Odyssey or something, but I don't know. It might happen. So
we have cars that run off of electric now. So you know what? They didn't think that was possible either, and here we are. So
yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think there's so much potential, especially now with technology and research and all things. So I think we are definitely going to see the field evolve a lot in the next 10, 50 years.
Yeah, sure. And I mean, he even talks about like a time where we will live forever, unless you die by like an accident, and then in which case like you would be put into an avatar type thing. I mean, it's like crazy, but I don't know. We'll see. We can look back on this IG live.
Huh.
Be like,
Yeah.
Right. I didn't think it was possible, but
yeah.
oh, that's interesting.
Mhm.
So my last question for you both. So which communities, companies, or experts do you follow for inspiration?
I think probably listen to a lot of people, and I try to take all like a bit from all of them. But David Sinclair is great. Dr. Rhonda Patrick is great. Dr. DeNicola Antonio, Peter Attia, I think is his last name. They all have awesome information, and they all hit it differently. And I do think that you should try to get as much information as you can from a lot of different sources because everyone brings something to the table, and if you can kind of mesh them all together, you might really find what works for you.
That's awesome. So you have that same kind of approach to your food. So just
Yeah,
lots of
yeah,
different things and you mesh them together.
yeah, kind of, yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I agree so much. I make like a really concentrated effort to entertain and research like the completely opposite sides of the spectrum. So
Mm.
like even on my show, I try to bring on like, really intense carnivore people and then really intense vegan people. And I just try to get like all opinions and just look at all of the research. And you mentioned a lot of people that I love as well. Like, oh, I love David Sinclair. I love Peter Attia as well. Rhonda Patrick, like you said, Ben Greenfield. I like Dave Asprey. I love Rob Wolf.
Yeah.
I just love podcasts. So I kind of just, I listen to those podcasts and then read all the books that I can. Yeah, they're really wonderful.
That's awesome. I think you both hit a lot of great inspirational people. So no, that's awesome. Well, I would like to thank both of you for joining us today
Sure.
and having this awesome conversation. Do you have any other last questions for each other or points on longevity?
I don't think so.
I'm good. This was
I think
fun.
we hit it all. Yeah,
Awesome. Well, thanks so
that
much
was
for your
good.
time today. Thanks for letting us dive deeper into your specific approach to longevity. Again, we're here with Cory Rodriguez. You can find him at Cory L. Rodriguez and Melanie Avalon at just Melanie Avalon on Instagram. And for anyone who is listening today, we'd like to offer you 25% off all of InsideTracker plans and a free inner age for your longevity journey with the code LIVE LONGER at checkout. Well, thank you both so much again for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.